Hello and welcome to the Stephen King episode of Splattercast. This is actually on, we're trying it with recording and doing the podcast at the same time. We are going to do, obviously, It and Storm of the Century. So CJ is going to start with Storm of the Century. So give a basic synopsis on Storm of the Century.
Storm of the Century, a stranger comes to town and he messes people's lives up, kills a lot of people, and a big storm's coming that blocks the island off from everybody else, and you're trying to figure out what the dude wants.
And this year marks 20 years. 20 years ago in 1999, it came out. I actually watched it for the first time yesterday because it's actually free on YouTube, or you can watch it on there. And I was on the fence with it because at times the villain's not in there much. I think I would give him about 25 to 30 minutes of screen time, the whole thing, and that's in 4 hours. He uses a lot of people to do kills, and so he doesn't really kill anybody.
He kills one person with his hands in the first 5 minutes of the movie.
And pulls out her eyes.
Well, it didn't pull out her eyes
he hit her so hard her eyes fell out.
Yeah. But yeah, I like it. It's very long. It's like 4 hours, like you said. But it has connections to a lot of his other movies as well. It connects to it.
It has there's a lot of It references, like a lot. There's a reference to something that you wouldn't know unless you read the book, which is the gay couple that gets beaten up in the beginning of the book by a nightclub in Derry, and they reference that in the film. And he's also the one who, at the end of the movie, ends up, in a bathtub
with an eye patch,
and he could commit suicide.
Yeah, weird.
There's a lot of Deadlights reference, and they drill it in the head like 7 or 8 times that this girl who got pregnant went to Derry to have the abortion, and they mention it like 8 times in the movie.
8 times.
Because she gets pregnant, and
the boyfriend is underneath another lady in town, and she doesn't know what she's going to do. She doesn't want to tell him because then it's like she's trying to trap him. And so she took it upon herself to go to Derry to get an abortion. So, and then also they're waiting for the storm to subside because it's a massive blizzard, windstorm, and like hurricane forces and all this other stuff. So they're waiting for that to subside to take the stranger, the prisoner, to Derry so he could be tried and all that other stuff. Also, there's, like you said, there's a lot of Deadlight.
There's a lot of Deadlight references, and there's also a reference to Dreamcatcher with the monsters that like hide in your rectum in Dreamcatcher. There's reference to the monster in there. There's reference to the mist, and the town has a feel of the mist.
It does.
Because everybody, throughout the movie, everybody turns on this one person, and it's all about the stranger wants a child because he's getting old. So they have to try and make the decision whether or not to get rid of a child, and everything systematically throughout the 4 hours, the main character, who I consider the main character, Michael, ends up getting more and more. The town just starts to turn on him more and more. But there is actually a lot of characters that just you want to throw through a wall?
There are. You slowly get to find out everybody's dark secret in the movie. Like slowly because it's like the stranger is almost somewhat of a devil. Like he knows what your sins are and he shares them with everybody in town. So you're slowly getting to realize how corrupted these good people are that you thought were really, really nice people, but it's slowly like you get to see the corruption of everything that you know for these people to be good is actually just false. Like they're horrible people and they're just putting on this facade of being good.
Which is a reference to Needful Things. I think the stranger in there is supposed to be the 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 devil like character from Needful Things, because in Needful Things he goes to the town Castle Rock, he opens up a shop, but he knows what everybody did, and he uses his mind to make them kill each other and
Hmm.
tear them apart. And there's one person in there that tries to stop all that. And there's also references in certain aspects of how he interacts, like his eyes, the way they change colors is to the Man in Black.
Yes. And
Because
I also liked the sorry for cutting you off, but I also liked his teeth. Like when in
yeah,
only certain parts, it was almost like a wolfy teeth.
like a Wendigo.
Yeah, I really like that, which could reference Pet Cemetery, depending on,
And roughly, this movie takes place in between the years of Pet Cemetery and It, because it takes place in 1989. So, and with them referencing Derry so much, that is a connection to It. And apparently, this town is right next to Derry,
yeah, like right across the way. They're on an island, so I think it's almost like right there. You
which
have
is
to go
probably
past the.
why the stranger wants the kids, because there's there's always like connections. If you haven't looked stuff up before, there's like everything in Stephen King is connected by the Dark Tower. Every story is a different level in the Dark Tower, and that is the Stephen King multiverse. So every story in some way is connected by something. And most of the time it's connected by Pennywise. But Pennywise
Yes.
goes by different names. He goes by Bob, he goes by Mr. Gray.
I think maybe he wasn't the stranger, but he had a lot of the characteristics of it. Like when he took the lady towards the end of the movie when they're all watching the lighthouse get smashed down. When she comes back, she has white hair. Like she was almost kind of, if you watch the remake, it's almost like she was in the creepy, um, what's it called? Like carousel type thing at the
Yeah.
towards the end of the remake of it. It was almost like she was there in this trance.
But also, if you stare into the deadlight, your hair turns bright white
Exactly.
because you're one step before death.
Yep. So I don't know. That's what I think. I like it. I like the kills. Um,
You don't really see them, but
you it's all suspense. You're watching them write his message that he's been saying the whole movie, writing this message on all these different things, and then they start committing suicide. So he's using like mind powers or whatever to get into their heads for them to do what they did. If you guys haven't seen it, you should so watch it. Um, spoils are coming, because
but it does
I,
remind me of Tommy Knockers, because in Tommy Knockers, a lot of the town folks get put
mhm,
under a trance, and it's kind of this movie was made. He wrote it for TV, so it was not a book. So, which is probably part of the reason why it seems like he cherry picks stuff from his other work to throw into there, because it's just like there's dream sequences where they
mhm,
all think they're gonna die together. He abducts the kids and like has their self conscious stuck in like limbo,
yeah,
and then he threatens to kill all the kids if he can't have, and
one.
then
Yeah, and like the whole thing is, did they trick themselves? I think they did because in the movie, the guy, I can't remember his character name or anything, but the guy that got
Linoge,
no, the guy that got the girl pregnant, Linoge was trying to um get him to do and murder his girlfriend that had the abortion, but he didn't. So there has to be a way where his mind control doesn't work. You know what I mean? Like there's something there, like because he was trying to get that kid to kill his girlfriend.
almost like a shining thing.
Yeah, and he didn't do it. Like something came inside of him, and he overcome Lenoja's mind control.
I think that's one of the reasons why Michael wasn't. He didn't change his views and opinions because I think he was immune to it. In every Stephen King story, somebody has the shining.
Pretty much.
The kids in it have the shining. Danny Torrance. You have the girl from Firestarter. Carrie's telekinesis is supposedly a form of the shining.
As well as Pet Cemetery.
Um,
The girl,
Ellie.
Ellie, she has
Um,
the shining.
unless you watch the new one and then it's Gage.
Either way.
But literally, there's some people that are immune to certain things. And Storm of the Century, if you're going in there for like straight up like kills and horror, that's not what it is.
It's a
It's
psychological.
he wrote it in '99, and at the time he was doing things like Shawshank Redemption and The Green Mile and Hearts in Atlantis. So he wasn't an Under the Dome. He wasn't writing straight up horror because that phase he kind of moved away from for a long time until he wrote Dreamcatcher. But there's a lot in there. It's more suspense in a small town and kind of seeing whether or not, because after they give up the kid, which they give up Michael's kid, ends up being picked. The Even though they got their kids back, they have to live in grief, and some of them get overdose on drugs, commit suicide.
Which also references to it.
Yeah,
A lot of the stuff that they went through as kids in it. This isn't the it review, I'm just adding to. Um, but all the stuff that the kids experienced when they were young in it changes them the whole, changes the whole outcome of what's going to happen to them when they're adults. And some of them can't take it and they end up killing themselves.
like
And
the bathtub scene. Anybody that's seen the original it reminds us the bathtub scene and the suicide. There's two scenes that are like that remind me of when Stanley cuts his wrists, which we will get to into the second half of this podcast, which is going to be the it portion.
yes, I really like the movie. I know it wasn't your strong suit, um, but if you like psychological horror, because you're trying to figure out what's going to happen, what does this person want? Because the whole time he's doing all this stuff, he keeps saying, "Give me what I want and I'll go away. Give me what I want and I'll go away." It's like, well, tell me what you want. I'll give it to you. Leave me alone.
I
And it's
think
just not happening.
I think the thing that slowed it down was the length, because I think there is a lot of sections that they could have trimmed down like a minute here,
Hmm.
10 minutes here. The pacing was really bad.
Yeah.
So, because at times it's just, there's this whole scene of them at a store talking about what canned foods they're going to grab and what milk they need to grab. And the scene doesn't add anything. They could have done it where they drove up to the grocery store, they have a slight conversation before they go in. Hey, we need to get supplies and get back to everybody. I want to be back in 45 minutes to an hour. Go inside and then cut to when they come out, because there's nothing besides him staring at like cans of corn Like, oh,
Yeah.
we need this. Oh, we need milk. Oh, we need this. It doesn't add anything to it. If anything, I would have cut stuff like that out and I would add more with the kids. Because he
Yes.
wants the kids, but it doesn't show a whole. There wasn't enough character development with the kids. The only ones that you really got an attachment to was Peppa, who got her. I don't know why I said her name like that. Who got her
Because
head.
that's how they say it in the movie.
Everybody in here,
Boston!
everybody in here is from Boston or from Ireland because they're thick accents, like thick. Except for the main character, because he sounds like he could be from Washington. And there's not enough with the kids. The kids need more time to develop. You have the little asshole kid that gets whatever he wants, and the only dialogue he really says in the whole movie is, "Oh, I'm going to get a cookie. Oh, I want donuts. Oh, my dad only puts me to sleep."
Hmm. He's a bully.
And then you have Ralph, who was
Ralphie.
yeah, he was the most had the most time to develop what he was.
He wanted
And then there's one kid who has only one good scene in the whole movie. The kid who was like playing basketball is the opening scene, and the rest of it, like, there's like nothing. There's so many
Yeah.
characters that didn't get enough time, and that's why I remember movies like The Mist, where you have all these characters in here, but everybody seems important. This one, there's a lot that just don't seem important, but it was good for what it was, but you could just there's stuff that can be done to it, like to fix it. I
Yeah.
think
It'd be an awesome movie to be remade, I think. With the whole Stephen King remakes and stuff. I think,
with the remakes of plenty these days.
yes, I think that would be an awesome one to remake. I do it because with the technology we have now and the graphics, I think it would be 100% overblown out kills.
And if you watch it, be leery. Every time they use the lighthouse or the water, there is a massive CG, and when this lighthouse falls, it looks
Yes.
bad. But it's 1999. CG was still early.
I don't know. It's one of my favorites. I watched it when I was young, and it just holds this spot in my heart. So I love it. I could rewatch it for hours and hours and hours, over and over and over.
And now we're gonna switch gears and talk about
We all flow down here.
now. There is two versions of it, but what I'm going to do is
Talk about the original.
I'm gonna talk about the remake because the original, in all honesty, like I saw the original when it premiered on TV. It doesn't exactly hold up at times because what everybody remembers is Tim Curry and Pennywise. You don't really remember like it wasn't amazing, and then especially the stupid fucking spider. The spider was stupid. So what we're gonna do, because there's a documentary coming out later this year, and we'll probably talk more about the original when his name was Pennywise comes out, which is gonna have Tim Curry back in the makeup in the documentary for the first time since 1990. We're gonna talk about the remake, the remake that I really wanted to see it when I heard about the remake, and CJ was kind of on the fence because when she saw the original, nobody told her there was another side to the DVD. So she's like, "Oh, it ends with a dude slitting his wrists." I'm like, "No,
There's more to it, you
there's
said.
more to it." And the second half has some good points and bad points. You gotta love that the actress from Black Christmas as
Yeah.
Bill's wife, and John Ritter is awesome in that one. But the remake, we went and saw it, and people took their kids because people thought, well, I believe it's from the people that did the Evil Dead remake.
Maybe.
Freddy Alvarez.
I'm not sure. You're that type of.
I think it is, but don't quote me on that. People took their kids, and the opening scene,
Was 10 times, maybe even 100 times more violent than I ever thought it could be.
but even before that, they referenced something that was never referenced in the original movie. But I've read the book like 5 times, and that thing is thick, over 1,000 pages, very thick. So turtles. The turtle is the one thing that is like Pennywise's like nemesis. It's the guardian. So all throughout the movie, you see either a Lego turtle, which crumbles right before the stairs, which is
Yes.
where Pennywise is hiding. And when they're swimming in the water to protect them, they're like, "Oh, what's that?" And you see a silhouette of a turtle.
Yes.
So the turtle is the
Key.
the gatekeeper, I would say.
Or the key master.
Gotta love Ghostbusters quotes. So the original scene was very tame, but when they did the remake, one of the things that I thought was really cool, and most people did not get it, is it was verbatim, line for line from the book. Everything Pennywise says in the drain is from the book.
It made it 10 times creepier, I think.
Especially the whole popcorn and rides and everything.
Mm-hmm. I haven't read the book, so I can't compare those two. I can only compare the movies. So
the one thing the remake did not do well is emphasize that the adults are oblivious to everything.
kind of, though.
There's
Kind
I know,
of.
but it's not in the original one. You really see it where people are getting harassed and cut, and the people just walk back into their stores. And that's in the original a lot in a lot of the flashbacks.
Wasn't it when what's his face was starting to carve his name in, but there was a balloon in the car and they just watched him getting cut.
Yeah, it's just
And
they
then they kept
didn't. There was
driving.
more. There's just more scenes. In this one, you have when the car scene, or when the lady's checking on her cat and she goes back into the house. Georgie's talking to him, and out of nowhere, Pennywise just rips the shit out of Georgie's arm.
Yeah, that
and
was.
There's blood. It got CJ,
Well, like I said, the only thing I could base it on is the original miniseries,
which they show nothing.
and I never. I know that they reference it because I've watched it since then. That Georgie's arm got ripped off and he was torn to pieces and blah 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 blah. I didn't remember that when we went to go watch the original in theater or the remake in theaters, and that scene did get me. I'm like, oh my god, it was crazy. Like I freaked out. I think I caused a lot of people to leave the theater because I was freaking.
And that's not the only time she freaks out. We'll get to that in a minute. The other thing is they brought in. God, I wish I could remember his name. Um, they brought in the most vile character that was in the book. Some context. He's the one that has the spray can and the lighter, and he's the one that gets attacked by Pennywise in the sewer. The reason they took him out, if you read the book, he is
Horrible.
a pedophile, and he forces Henry Bowers to give him hand jobs while he cuts people. He's not. People have always said that he's worse than Pennywise because he is like the end all be all for everything that a kid should not be. And he's, I think his name is Belch.
Yeah.
But he gets it pretty bad, and there's a there's a reference to the book with the I Love Dairy because he beats up homosexual people at a carnival for the I Love that, and that's where the I Love Dairy balloon comes from.
Okay.
But it's there's a lot of slight references to the book, and I like in the movie they actually people are in the right spots these times because the one who's actually researching stuff in the library in the original was Mike, in this one it's Ben.
Yeah.
Because in the book it was Ben. And it just, the only problem is there is a lot that they couldn't do because of rights. Because when some of the kids dream about see Pennywise, there's references to Jaws and Creature from the Black Lagoon and the Wolf Man, and you can't do that in the movies. But I think some of the scenes that they altered were good, like the trying to remember the right term for it. Well, you see something in the beginning of the movie and it's referencing something towards the end, and that's with Mike and his uncle when they're shooting the sheep and the cow in the head. There's lines in there and references to the scene with him and Henry at the end of the movie. I gotta readjust for a minute, like fall asleep.
Yeah, that movie really creeped me out. My favorite scene in that movie is most likely the library scene. Because if you watch it and you don't notice, the adults in the background are the creepiest fucking thing in that whole scene. In that whole scene. I mean, because the little Ben, right?
Yeah.
Ben is reading about the Easter massacre, right?
Yeah.
And all this stuff. And in the back, the old lady librarian is like getting very creepy, just going, I'm watching you type thing, and like getting closer and closer to Ben. And it's like, oh my God, what's gonna happen? And then when he goes downstairs, the Easter eggs, the literal Easter eggs.
The burnt Easter eggs.
Yeah. And then that creepy thing that's following him that turns into Pennywise. It gets intense.
And the scene that there's only one scene I don't like with the kids when they meet Pennywise, and it's the Jewish bar mitzvah thing where the painting comes alive.
Yeah.
It doesn't hold up compared to when Mike is at the delivering the meat and the door opens up and his parents were burnt alive, and that's a reference to it, and then it's all creepy, and then you see Pennywise in the back.
Yeah.
Or the leaper. That's what it's called. The one that's like the one that has stuff leaking all off his face and is all like a sick, decrepit person that's just walking towards.
Yeah, that was creepy.
There's that. They also took scenes that were iconic in the original.
The blood from the steak.
Yeah, but making like her hair that she cut off, like come off and like tie her
to the sink. Yeah, that was crazy.
And then you have references to the other kids that are missing because their voices are in the sink, and in the original they weren't down there. Pennywise is just making fun of her. That one, and then when I was a kid, the scene that really fucked with my head, like really bad, was the portrait when it spins back and forth, and then Pennywise talks to him.
And Georgie's picture winked, and are you talking about that part?
The one where the picture comes alive and he starts walking through.
Oh, okay.
And then he sees the kids and he runs up a pole, and then at the end of it he goes, "Rawr!" Puts his hands through. When I was a kid, that used to really mess with me. But in this one, they're watching a like a
projector,
like a still projector, and then he just busts out and he's like 20 feet tall, and right when he busts it out, CJ just screams so loud
murder
in the theater.
People left,
and because of that, it ricocheted, and everybody else started screaming.
Yes,
but that scene was really good. And the cat. Speaking of the projector, earlier in the movie, in that room is Bill and his dad. His dad is an asshole. He's like, just get over it. Your brother's dead. Because he wants to find his brother, because they even say his body was never recovered, because anybody that Pennywise kills, the bodies are never found.
Because he eats them.
And
eats them. Cannibal.
And the thing that I think the reason I like Pennywise is he's multi-layered. Like there's so many aspects. There's reasons why he kills. He only comes out so often to kill, and it's normally at anniversaries. And every time he does, there's like a giant storm, aka Storm of the Century. During it, which takes place like it takes place 20 years before Storm of the Century, and they even said 20 years ago there was this big giant storm and people went missing, which is a slight reference to it when all these kids ended up being missing. And there's a lot of scenes in it that are really good. Like there's this one actually shows the house. In the original one,
Yes, a
they
very
did
creepy house.
they did not show the house. And the house is like the incubator for where he is. And I love there's one scene that has the original Pennywise doll in the corner when Eddie's going into the room and the door shuts and
Yes,
he's
I
walking
know.
past and all but if you watch it, all the clown heads move except one. The original Pennywise one does not move. And that one's creepy because that one got me a little bit because you think it's gonna pop out when he opens the casket.
Yeah, and it doesn't.
It doesn't. It comes right behind him and then it's just like boom, hits you right in the face. That's actually
No.
that's good horror directing right there.
Yes.
Beverly's an interesting character in there, but I think what they did in this one is Ben seems more important because he knows about the history. I do love the New Kids on the Block too.
Yes.
That's like periodically going through it. It makes him sound more. It's in this one, all the kids like have a part.
Yes.
In the original one, some of the kids weren't like interesting to me.
Ben
this,
was it Ben? No, which one was like Georgie's brother? Billy.
Bill.
He was the main focus.
Yeah, and they even do it where like in this one, like the kids break up for a while until they find out that Bev is missing. But we've sugarcoated around enough. We have to talk about the new Pennywise. Now,
Which one's scarier? Everyone says the old Pennywise or the new Pennywise, and I think for me they both have different types of scary.
the old one is like jokes, so it gives you this false sense of security, and then get you after that.
Yes.
The other one is balls to the wall in your face. The best way that I could do it is old Pennywise is like the Romero zombie.
Yes.
New Pennywise is like
The Walking Dead.
remake Dawn of the Dead where they run. Because in this one, Pennywise freaking runs and he breaks somebody's arm in there and his jaw actually opens and when it opens you can see the deadlights inside.
Yes.
Which is really
100% cool. Scarier in that aspect. The original one, it's like you want to befriend it, you want to get close to it, you know what I mean? You want to spend time with that clown, and then that's how it gets you. This one, I would just run away from. Like, there's no way.
More of a Victorian clown, and everybody always says the Victorian clown look because it's not bright blues and yellows. It's like gray and white and black.
I love how they brought in this movie the history of clowns.
Yeah, they talk more about the history of clowns.
What its original legend is. Clowns, it was like this demonic thing that put on a happier face to lure kids into the woods.
Yeah.
Type of thing. And I like that they contributed with our folklore in now times with the movie.
And I am happy that they took certain scenes that there is no humanly way fucking possible. You can put them in a movie and they changed it. So the scene where they're all taking the glass and cutting each other and putting their hands together as kind of like a way to like symbolize that they're all together and they're all going to go after Pennywise. In the book, for some reason, Stephen King decided to let Barbara have sex
with all the boys.
with everyone.
And that's
that,
how they united. And the original was the puff of the inhaler.
Yes.
So
it's there's a lot of good points to it. It makes me excited for It Chapter 2.
That's coming out soon.
It comes out in September.
Yes.
The of all the kid actors, the only one that I don't think was convincing was Bill.
The stuttering and that kind of stuff. Yeah.
Oh, the stuttering, and he's supposed to be the leader of the team, and he's supposed to have it. He seemed like he was trying to be too sympathetic, because even Stan was really good. Mike was good. Beverly Marsh was good. Eddie was good. So was Richie. Richie Tozer was played by the kid from Stranger Things, and he was funny.
Awesome.
And he was making dirty jokes.
Mm-hmm.
Dirty jokes, like a lot. And Ed's mom was fucking creepy.
Yeah, I didn't like her. Like, I didn't like her in the first one, but I seriously did not like her in this one.
I liked Henry Bowers because he played it like it was in the book. And you could tell that, yeah, he's a big bully, but his dad freaking makes him like almost break down into tears in one of the scenes.
Mm-hmm.
And then he freaking kills his dad with his knife, which that scene reminded me of Halloween, the remake.
Yeah.
When the stepdad gets killed. It's just, all in all, I think
Rob
it's
Zombie
remake,
remake,
Rob
not
Zombie.
the newest one.
I think this is one of the better Stephen King remakes, because I saw the Carrie remake and I was not a big fan of it. And then in the early 2000s, they remade The Shining, which I will say that's the only real version I've seen of the movie. There was The Stand, which was really bad. There was Salem's Lot, which was really bad. It's sometimes you remake, even the Pet Cemetery remake doesn't hold up. There's a lot that you will, if you remake Stephen King, you got to remake it the right way, and you have to be a fan of the source material. When I was watching this, we've watched it like what, 15, 20 times?
Yes.
Since it came out. So in 2 years, we've watched it 15, 20 times. You could tell that they love the book.
Oh, yes.
You could so tell they love the book, and the same person that did the first one is doing part 2. So you could really tell that it was something like a special project they wanted to do. They wanted this to be something special. And it became the highest grossing R-rated movie. Hi, Sage. I swear, periodically on this channel, this cat has been in like 50 or 60 videos. Wave, Sage. Sometimes this cat reminds me of church. Look at that face.
Look at your face. Nah.
She don't give a fuck. So if you're doing the source material and doing it right, when you have a book that's over 1,000 pages, there's a lot that can't be in the movie, but there's a lot you can pull from. And the really cool thing I like is Pennywise only appears like when a turtle gets broken.
Yes, I did like that reference to the what's it called, the what verse?
I was reading yesterday. I think it's part of the Ka verse, is what they call it.
No, never mind.
Well, there's like there's a certain verse they come from, but there's references to them in the Ka verse.
Okay, Ka verse then.
Yeah, Ka verse is like is a reference to like Dark Tower and stuff like that. But it's just Derry's also the one of the most overused Easter eggs in Stephen King stuff, because they always talk about Derry.
Yes.
All the time. Dairy Maine, Dairy Maine. But what's
Yes.
cool is just like in this one, in it, just like in everything else, once you leave Dairy, you forget. So like
Yeah.
you when you leave, you forget everything until it's brought up to you, which is kind of cool. It's in a lot of Stephen King stories that happens, which is kind of why I'm wondering if they're still going to keep with Mike is the one that stayed behind, because I think they might actually change it to Ben
Maybe.
since he's the researcher and everything. And I'm just kind of curious how it's going to go. But they got grade A actors for the second one, especially when you got James McAvoy as Bill. So Charles Xavier as Bill.
Cool.
So this has
I
been
don't know.
our kind of talking. We wanted to do a Stephen King episode, but then we looked at his library and we're like, there is no way we could talk about every Stephen King property in one podcast and do it justice. So down the line, there's possibilities of us doing more. Maybe we could talk about The Shining when I actually watch it. I have not seen the Jack Nicholson one. She has. She likes it. And maybe I can get her to watch The Stand and we can talk about The Stand because I love The Stand. Or we could talk about Salem's Lot, Cujo, any of that. So,
Sounds fun. Carrie,
Carrie, Christine,
Maximum Overdrive.
we unabashedly love Maximum Overdrive, and I know half the internet hates Maximum Overdrive,
I love
but
it.
it's popcorn movie. It makes no sense, but it's okay. Has some of the worst dialogues in a Stephen King movie, though. Bad dialogue. Calling people ladybug. I don't give a ladybug. All right, so I am Chucky,
I'm so shy.
and we will see you next time.